Desde la Jefatura de Carrera de la Escuela de Periodismo de la Universidad de Santiago de Chile, les doy la más cordial bienvenida a la ceremonia de inauguración del año académico. En esta mesa nos acompaña el director de la escuela, doctor Antoine Faure, y la doctora Marjolaine Boutet, profesora titular de Civilización Americana en la Universidad de Sorbonne, París Norte. Saludamos especialmente a los y las académicas de la escuela y estudiantes de nuestra comunidad, a quienes les damos la bienvenida a la inauguración de nuestro año académico. Esta ceremonia es muy relevante para toda la comunidad de periodismo. Iniciamos un nuevo ciclo de formación. Cada uno de nosotros y nosotras alberga la idea del inicio, la posibilidad de una nueva temporada. Hace ya un tiempo que las series han inundado nuestros espacios cotidianos y han formateado algunas de nuestras rutinas. En ellas encontramos representaciones de la realidad y si bien tendemos a pensar que son ficción, las disfrutamos mucho más cuando corresponden a nuevas ventanas desde donde asomarnos al mundo que nos rodea. Ficcionamos con ellas, en ellas, emociones, ideas, viajamos, pero también somos capaces de aproximarnos a temas que están presentes en el país. Sus personajes muchas veces encarnan estereotipos vinculados a las formas en que hemos aprendido a comprender el poder. Reflejan las relaciones que también somos capaces de establecer. Sus historias representan lo que somos, o podemos aspirar, o queremos llegar a ser. Relatar, narrar, contar nuestra historia, nuestras historias, parece hoy lo más habitual en un mundo lleno de registros en que buscamos contar quiénes somos. Ver series no es un acto individual, es un acto mediado, en el que articulamos con los demás sentidos de identidad, albergamos nuestras propias creencias, ponemos en común nuestras formas de participar en el mundo. Al decir lo que estamos viendo, también dejamos abierta una ventana para que los demás nos puedan leer. Cuando intercambiamos sentidos sobre lo visto, producimos cultura, colectivamente, y negociamos lo común. En palabras de Jane Bloom, ejercemos poder. El periodismo aparece también así, como una ventana a la realidad. Los y las periodistas construyen ventanas para que otros y otras puedan mirar. Necesitamos saber cómo se cuentan las historias, aprender a narrar. Pareciera a veces, algo propio de estos tiempos. En el espacio público se tensiona la racionalidad discursiva con el contar persuasivo de las redes. Tambulamos entre la ficción y la no ficción, y entre los diversos formatos por donde se media la realidad. Con estas palabras, busco una reflexión. Quisiera que esta clase magistral nos invite a conocer criterios para ser críticos, a atender a la relación entre la historia y la ficción. Ojalá nos ofrezca pistas para entrever y saber cuáles son los relatos que debemos construir. Necesitamos conocer todas las formas en que se escriben y representan los hechos, distinguir la ficción de la no ficción. Los y las periodistas juegan un rol fundamental a la hora de distinguir historias y encontrar las hebras que entretejen la trama de lo social. Se requiere periodistas para identificar lo relevante, capaces de anticipar el impacto de los hechos. Dar sentido a una historia requiere una mirada, un punto de vista. Esto se construye aproximándonos críticamente con información bien contada. El periodismo y las series están interconectadas. Las series se inspiran en los mismos eventos reales que son informados habitualmente por los y las periodistas. ¿Hablemos de series entonces? Quiero dejar con ustedes a la doctora Marjolaine Boutet, quien lleva más de 15 años especializándose en la representación de la historia y los conflictos en los medios de comunicación, especialmente de las series de televisión. Ella hoy nos brindará la clase magistral y al finalizar habrá un espacio, eso es importante que lo sepan, para que estén atentos y atentas, para hacer algunas preguntas. Nuestro director va a apoyarnos, digamos, con la traducción. Dejo con ustedes a la doctora Boutet con su clase magistral, series de ficción televisiva, ventanas hacia el mundo.
Muchas gracias, Alejandra. Solo agradecerlas por su presencia, estudiantes, profesores, profesoras. Marjolaine, por tu tiempo, por el viaje. También voy a agradecer al programa Ecosanit que permite traer a investigadoras e investigadores, en este caso Marjolaine, y decirle que Marjolaine nos va a presentar una reflexión que busca cuestionar la universalidad o lo universal de las representaciones del amor en series de televisión y en específico en las series coreanas, las K-dramas. No se asusten, Marjolaine va a hablar en inglés, pero los PowerPoint son súper detallados y en castellano. Y cualquier cosa lo puedo traducir si es necesario. Que tengan una buena preferencia.
Hola a todos. That's about how far my English, Spanish goes. Do you understand me if I speak English? Yes? Yes. So I see there's some fan of K-dramas here. Perfect. Me too. First so why am I an historian of TV series? Because that's what I invented in France. The job didn't exist. Because I think that TV series help us to understand the world better, and so also to understand ourselves better. Why? Because TV series are fictions, and fictions they make sense when the world most of the time doesn't. So TV series make sense and help us make sense of the world and what the world might be. It's also, they allow us to live different lives, to see how other people live, feel, work, fight, etc., etc. Of course, TV series are not reality. They're a representation of reality, but they influence how we feel or what we expect of the world. And my point today is to show you how fictions influence what we expect of love. Okay. So when I say love, I don't mean sex, I don't mean marriage, I don't mean family. I mean just this feeling that this is the person for you. And this is your half, or this is your soulmate, etc., etc. This is just a feeling of love. And my hypothesis is that love works as a fiction. Why does it work as a fiction? Because when you feel that you are in love, or when you say you are in love, when someone tells you they love you, you have to believe it, to experience it, to live it. So it's what's called suspension of disbelief. And it's the same thing when someone tells you a story, or when you watch a movie, or when you watch a TV series. You have to believe this is true in order to get into the story, in order to feel it. If you don't believe what the other person is telling you, if you don't trust the person, they can't be love. So that's why it works as a fiction, and it's also really based on words. It's something you say, and then you prove, but it's something you say. And when it's over, it's also based on words. Yeah, we need to talk. Not a good sign. This is not you. This is me. Okay, this is things you say. This is things that end the suspension of disbelief, that end the story. And we talk about love stories, and this is probably the story we all expect to live at least once in our lives. So love is based on words, is based on fiction, on expectation, and but this, what we expect, what we think love is also based in stories, in fictions. And this was invented by the Catholic Church. in the Middle Ages. Because before that, in ancient Greece, in ancient Rome, stories talked about desire, about marriage, about rape, a lot. But they didn't speak about love as this eternal feeling linking two persons together. That's really something that was invented in the Middle Ages by the Catholic Church to try to pacify and control society. And try to pacify and control especially violent men that were knights. Caballeros. And so Netflix at the time was called The Troubadours. So it's people that came into castles and tell you stories, and mostly stories about love and how knights loved a lady. They were not necessarily married. Most of the time they were not married, and so they didn't have sex. It was just about love and how the knight was fighting and was ready to give his life to make the lady proud. That created this idea that love is something that makes you do big things when you're a man. And it's also based on the respect of the lady that is very often not touched or even not in the same room when you love. So that's the idea that love is something that's also burning inside of you and make you do bigger things. So that's what the Catholic Church sold in the Middle Age. And the way it was told and the way it is still told in many stories, and we'll see examples of that, is told as a heroic story. And so there's someone called Joseph Campbell. In 1949, he studied almost every story that had ever been written since the beginning of time. And he said this is almost always the same story, the story of a hero that goes out of his home into a new world, that fights monsters, and then because he fights monsters, he becomes better, and when he becomes better, he wins the prize, the treasure. And in those love stories, the prize and the treasure, this is the princess. So the hero is male and the treasure is female. That's how it was told. And so it gives this idea that in love, men are active. They're the one fighting the monsters. They are the one showing their desire. And the woman, she waits in a tower to be rescued. And that's what you see in fairy tales. Of course, Disney, you recognize Snow White with this very unconsented kiss. So that's also how rape culture is ingrained. You have this idea of the damsel in distress, so waiting to be rescued, or she's locked in a castle, or in the case of Little Mermaid, she gives up her tongue, everything that she is, her personality, in order to be loved by the prince. Also, the little red... Yeah, you know that, okay. Okay, that has to fight the wolf, because also, again, it's her fault if the wolf gets her. So that's really, fairy tales are ingrained with rape culture and with this idea that men are active, women are passive, and they have to be rescued or they should protect themselves. Another thing that we can find in those fairy tales about love is how it legitimates toxic masculinity, with this idea that if a princess kisses a frog, it will become a prince. So it's this idea that if you don't like the guy, if the guy is not handsome, well, kiss him, love him enough, he will become a prince. Second type of story, Beauty and the Beast. The guy can literally rip you off, but again, if you love him enough, if you educate him enough, he will become a gentleman. And so it's on you, it's on female, to change men and to make them become the prince that they are inside. And of course, all of these princes are very pretty. The same type of ideas came into Hollywood romance, Hollywood films about love, where again, as you see in this picture, men are active, women are more passive, responsive. And all of those romantic comedy, they follow the same steps, which is an adaptation of the heroic journey, but it's there are two heroes. There are two. The couple is at the center of the story. So it's love in 7 steps. First step, the setup. Something is missing in their life, and of course this is love, and of course this is the other. Second step, they meet, and of course in all of those movies they meet by chance. It's never expected, it's never love happens out of nowhere. This is fate, this is destiny. And in movies, you can go all the way when the guy saves your life. So, of course, this is love at first sight. Or you can go very casual. You're friends, you meet by chance, and you're not really attracted to each other at first. But, of course, you will. Third step. You become friends or you become a couple, you get to know each other, everything is fine. Step 4. Of course, there will be obstacles. Something will go wrong. The family will get into the way, friends, work, opportunity, etc., etc. You will have obstacles to overcome because this is a heroic journey. If there's no obstacles, there's no movie. Step 5, the breakup. Something will go terribly wrong and the couple will split. But of course, they will be very unhappy until step 6. Usually it's the man who realizes he has been fooled, and we make a very public gesture to express his love. Usually it involves music and or an airport. And in The Wedding Singers, you have the two. He plays music into a plane. Okay. This has to be really, really big. And then the movie is over. Kiss, fade out. They live happily ever after. So that's what you can see in movie after movie, in rom-coms, in all the Christmas movies that you may see. This is the same story over and over again, and we love it. But what does it, and yes, and it works the same if it's not a man and a woman, if it's two women or two boys, in the case of Heartstopper, that you may have known. This is really the same structure. What this structure tells us is that if there's no obstacles, then maybe love is not real. That you have to overcome things. That love has to be difficult, at least at first. So that's what it puts into our brain. And also, second thing, if you say you love someone loud enough, publicly enough, and if you repeat it, then the other will be convinced. That can be also debatable. And of course, there's this idea that if you're not in a relationship, if you're not loving someone or and loved by someone, you're incomplete. And when you're complete, when you find the one, then the story ends, and then there's nothing else to do. So that's what Western type of stories tell us about love. But K-dramas tell us a very different story about love, very different love stories. And I will try to explain to you why. So first of all, who has never seen a Korean drama? 1, 2, 3. Okay. 4. Okay. 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 Older people. Okay, so you resisted the Hallyu, which means wave in Korean, and this is how Korea took over culture, starting in the late 1990s, because up until then, Korea was under the influence of China and or Japan. It has been a colony for most of its history. Of course, it's still divided in two states, and it's still at war, even though they're not fighting. There's no peace between North and South Korea. So how can they exist? This is a very small country, and they decided to exist in Asia through culture. And so it started with K-pop, and maybe you recognize BTS, which is the biggest boy band in the world. Also, after K-pop came food, skincare, all those things coming from Korea, and of course, K-dramas and their version of love. So this is how Korea existed, first in Asia and then in the rest of the world, especially through those very handsome, very pretty boys. Very different from what was shown in Western culture, but even in China and Japan, where men were men. So, what do K-dramas and also K-pop songs tell us about love? To understand that, you have to know that the vision of the world and the place of the self in society is very different in the Western world and in Asia in general, but especially in Korea. In the Western world, we developed this idea that the individual is what matters. Our identity, ourselves, and the rest of the world is just projection of us, of who we are. In Asia, and especially in Korea, it's entirely different. The idea is that everybody's part of a big whole, a big totality. And so you're part of something that is quite fluid, that is not binary, as in the Western thought we all think in black and white, male, female, good, bad, etc., etc. In Asian philosophy, it's entirely different, and this is all part of the same thing, and this is all connected, and this is all shades of gray. This is what the yin and yang stands for. So what does it mean for love and for emotions? So the relation to others is entirely different. In Korean, you never say I. You always talk about the other person and how you relate to the other person. And whether you're good with the person, you respect him, or you're angry at him or her, you will speak differently. The grammar will be different. And if you watch K-drama, you also listen, you see that they speak differently. And the language really express how they feel and how they feel in connection to the person they're talking to. So there are three ways of connecting to the big whole, the big collective. The first mode of relationship is called zhong. Zhong is when you feel connected to others, and the way you feel connected to others is you take care of the others. You give gifts, you're polite, you're respectful, you respect them. That's what is looked for. That's what's good. But you can also be sad. You can also feel that you're disconnected from people, and that's called han. And that happens, and that's also perfectly okay. And then the third type of emotion is called hua. And hua means flower, means fire, everything that burns, that bursts. And so it's when you're angry, when you're frustrated at something, someone. And again, that's perfectly okay to express it. In Korea, if you keep your emotions inside, you might get sick, and you might make the entire society also sick. So that's why if you watch Korean TV series, you see people that are really yelling at each other or at someone else, and the other person doesn't react, just let it go. You have to go over your anger, and then everything will be fine. You also see them drinking a lot, and I mean a lot. And that's also fine, because that's how you express what you can't express without alcohol, and then you'll be okay. So that's really an entire different way of expressing your emotion, and also of thinking what is acceptable and what is not. So it's perfectly acceptable in Korea to really cry and to throw yourself on the floor. That's normal, even when you're an adult. And so how does it relate to love, and how love is represented in K-dramas? So when romantic comedy tells us about love in 7 steps, in K-dramas you have 5 really meaningful gestures that shows that the man cares about the woman. That's usually how it's portrayed. The first gesture is called the back hug. And it's important that it comes from the back, because again, if you see in this example, she's crying, she's in hua, so she expresses her sadness. He doesn't try to stop her from expressing her sadness. He just shows her that he's there, is with her in her sadness, and is waiting that she comes back to chambre. That's the first gesture. The second gesture is carrying someone on your back when usually they're drunk, or sometimes they're really tired because they're drunk. But that's also something you do because you care for the person, and so you admit, you accept that they're drunk, or they're not well, and still you take care of them, and still you accept that they're not perfect all the time or feeling well all the time. The third gesture that you find in K-dramas is preventing someone from falling or hurting themselves. And most of those examples are taken from probably my favorite K-drama of all times, called Crash Landing on You. And this is literally the beginning of the story, where this South Korean woman crash lands on a North Korean soldier. So that's also one of the signs that you really care for the other person. Fourth gesture, it's the umbrella. When again you're protecting the person from snow, rain, etc., etc. And then, of course, but you have to wait very long time to see it, there is the kiss. And the kiss, as you see, it always happens usually under a cherry blossom tree and with a lot of lights. It's always beautiful with a lot of music. And you swoosh and you wait for another 4 hours to have a second kiss. But that's also what we like when we see K-dramas. So what do K-dramas tell us about love? First of all, in K-dramas, women are the lead. Women are the ones that are wanting things, having ambitions, they have career, they have things that are important to them and are not related to what the guy wants or sometimes also what the family wants. They're independent, strong, opinionated. They have a personality, sometimes not really easy to live with, but that's how they are portrayed. And also, if you saw the pictures before, they are kind of plain looking. They are not extremely pretty. The ones that are extremely pretty are the men. And the men are soft, respectful, in the care. They never pressure or are violent against women, while women often beats the men when they're frustrated or whatever. But the men, they never respond, and they're always respectful, soft, caring, etc., etc. Third lesson. Love is not that much about what you say, but it's about what you do. What you do for the other person and not expecting a response, not expecting an effect on the other. And there's this idea in Western culture, the hero is the one that transforms himself and then transforms the world. In Asian philosophy, the world doesn't need to be changed. You just need to be in sync with the world. So there is change, but the change comes from yourself and from how you will manage to connect with it. But you don't try to change the other person, and you don't try to change the world. And that's also something that is found in K-dramas. And finally, in K-dramas, there's no sexual display of affection. There's just very gentle kiss on the lips. But still, consent is very important. Equality, what the other person wants or feel, and you respect their emotions, etc., etc. And so that's what the love relationship is made of. Is made of respect for the other as someone different from you. There's not this idea that once you're a couple, you're just one person and you have to want the same thing all the time. There's really this respect. And for a very long time, no, not yes. And for a very long time, so K-dramas have been very heterosexual, very conservative in many ways. It's always about a man and a woman. But again, Korea understands that now they're a global phenomena, and they have to adapt also because some of their K-pop idols committed suicide because of this pressure of being perfect and, of course, being heterosexual. And so for a few years now, they also produce what's called BL drama, boys love drama. And for example, you have the Bump Up Business, that is a love story between two K idols, so two young men learning to be part of a boys band. So they also evolve, and they also understand very well that the success of K-pop, K-drama, etc., it's how beautiful their actors are, and how different they are from actors from other parts of the world. Lastly, because this is the start of a new year, because you're probably young and looking for love, this is what I want you to remember from this talk, is that love your current self. Because you are the only person that you're sure that you will spend your entire life with. So you better love yourself. Thank you very much.
Bien, agradeciéndolos a todos, todas y todes, y más que todo a Marjolaine por su conferencia, vamos a abrir una ronda de preguntas para los y las que les gustaría seguir la reflexión, profundizarla o cuestionar incluso lo que nos plantea Marjolaine. La propuesta que hago es que hagan las preguntas en castellano y yo se la traduzco en francés y hacemos el mismo trayecto de vuelta, si les parece.
¿Cómo dirían que se traduce en la cultura coreana? Ay, me perdí, perdón, tengo mucha gente mirando, me puse nerviosa.
No miramos, nadie mira.
Un segundo que ¿la podría decir en inglés porque lo escribí en inglés?
Sí, obvio, los que hablen bien inglés, por favor. Todos,
Okay.
de hecho.
How does fiction translate into culture in Korea, considering it seems to frown upon feminism, and there's this idea of the strong female lead?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is what they sell to the world. It doesn't mean that the place of women in Korea is ideal. Okay, these are representation aimed at selling Korea to the rest of the world. And this is true that, for example, Barbie was highly criticized. It has a huge success at first in Korea. Then the critics and the men said this is bad, and they didn't want because the problem with Barbie is that feminism was explicit. It was said. Here, it's never said. It is shown. It is mostly written by women, those K-dramas, but the female lead, they will never say I'm a feminist. And also, they don't need to, because the men are perfect and respectful, and so this all implicit that we see as feminists, but yeah, it's just shown. And in Korea now they have a problem because female, they don't get married anymore, and they don't produce babies anymore because they focus on their career. So you can blame it on K-dramas if you want, but or maybe on men. You'll see. But yes, so the society is changing, and you also see it in K-dramas because they speak more and more about social problems, about issues, but they will never say we are feminists, because that would create a backlash. So again, show it, don't say it, and then you'll be fine.
Okay, gracias.
You're welcome. Yes. Oh, okay. Ricardo.
Thank you. I just have a question about the relationship between these dramas and audiences.
Yes.
Because given all the differences that you have highlighted, why do you think this has become a global phenomenon? Like even in the Western world, given those like big differences, is there some sort of curiosity or like exotic curiosity maybe?
This is, of course, the exoticism. I think also the aesthetic. This is really beautiful, and this is romantic. When most US TV series are all about violence, drugs, crime, sex. Okay. When you're tired of that and you want to dream about a perfect world with perfect men and love stories and etc. Also, what they manage to do is that they mix. So you have love and medical drama, you have love and thriller, you have love and vampires, you have love in anything, history, anything you other genres that you may like. So it's always kind of the same story, but with a different setting. You have also a big focus on mental health, mental issues, non-neurotypical person. The Good Doctor was first a Korean series, then it became a US TV series. So there's, and the Korean society portrays itself as very modern. So there's a lot also of technology, a lot of social media that makes it, and yeah, and it's a safe space.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Alan. First of all, congratulate you for your engaging presentation.
Thank you.
And my question is, if I'm not much of a K-drama watcher, but I'm curious if they show what happens after they become a couple at the end of the K-drama. And do you think that's important, or that's what makes K-dramas special or stand out over other series?
This is a very good question. It depends, because most of the K-dramas I watched are over a very long period of time. And usually the main couple has been a couple when they were teenagers, and they meet again when they are 30 something, etc. And you have different timelines. But of course, there's not just one couple. There are many couples, families. The parents or the aunts and uncles, also they're established couples, and you see them working as established couples. And it's always the same structure, is that the women are strong, even when they are older, already married, mothers, etc. And the men are usually very soft. If they're not, they're the bad guys. But so, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hi. Do you think that this is more, also a generational kind of thing, more than a cultural thing? Because I have seen a lot of K-dramas, and the first one that I saw was one that is not so old, is Boys Over Flowers. And in that one, the male leader is kind of explosive and violent sometimes with the female girl. So more than a cultural thing, maybe is for the generational gap there is there, you know?
Yes, I think it speaks a lot to your generation. It's an oppositional thing, because you grew up with this very sexualized culture, and maybe you want something else. And about violent men, yes, of course, the princess and the frog type of narrative is also, you can also find it into K-dramas. There's the one about, it's in medieval Korea with a scarred prince that is very violent and sad, because it's scarred, and then of course love will make him a little better. That's true. In some Korea dramas, you can find that. This really, they create a narrative for every type of taste. But the violence, I think, but maybe you saw something else, is never physical. Is it physical?
Sometimes. I
Sometimes.
mean, like the guy throw things at the girl when he's mad, or the typical insult.
Mhm.
That's not physical, but it's violence.
And how does she react?
Well, in Boys Over Flowers, the girl usually gets mad and throw things back.
Okay. Okay.
But there are also the typical that she is scared, obviously.
And Boys Over Flower, if I'm not mistaken, it's on Netflix. And so again, Netflix has invested millions of dollars into K-dramas that they also produce for an international audience. So they try to diversify the narratives.
I think that there's also a remake that I think it's called Meteor Garden or something like that. And in that one, the girl meets the guy and kicks him in the face right away. So that's what, like a retelling, it's refreshing.
Yes, Taiwan is also trying to exist with the same model of than Korea. It's same problem. Little countries caught between China and Japan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hola.
Hola.
Si bien entiendo el inglés, no lo puedo hablar bien, así que perdón. Quería preguntar acerca de como la idealización que se tiene acerca de como cada persona que comprende una relación, que por qué se sigue manteniendo hoy en día, sabiendo que los roles de género no son como tan estrictos como lo eran antes, y que creo que todos los comprendemos un poco. ¿Por qué se sigue usando este tipo de elementos en las series, en las películas, en el cine en general?
This is a very good question. Because we watch films and TV series to dream. And there are other... This is a very good question. I think those type of representation kind of changing gender roles and gender representation in the way that K-idols in general convey the idea in some men that it's okay to wear makeup or to take care of your skin or to take care of your body and to have a nice haircut, etc., etc. Of course, not all men. And patriarchy is still there. And this idea of what a real man should be, yes. So this, I think the culture is changing. I think right now, at least the studies tells us that there's a strong backlash. And that, yes, you're right. Women, especially your generation, are more and more feminist and conscious of gender roles and gender norms and questioning it. While, and again, this is a very collective thing, men, especially younger men, are less and less prone to this idea of feminism and dream more and more about submissive wives, etc., etc. So this is a cultural war, for sure, that you will probably have to fight for yourself. Good luck.
Hello. My question is about the fiction.
Yes.
Because we all know these TV shows are fiction.
Yes.
And it also works in Japan. I mean, Korea.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it works very, very well in Japan. So.
Yes, but how this fiction influence in the search for love of Korean women and also in our search of love? Do you think this is like this perfect man will appear suddenly, and how do you think it works?
Yeah, what it shows in Korea is that women, they don't marry anymore. Because the men are not like this in reality. So that's also there's not just that, but there's the fact that Korean society is highly competitive. And when you're a woman and you have a husband and kids, you have less time to give to your career because things will be expected of you that are not from men. And so when they want to have careers, they really give up on the ambition of also becoming a mother and a wife. So that's true. And it will, I think it will take a long time to match those, I would say, expectations that we, and that's also in the Barbie movie, they say that. We have to be ambitious, but not too much. We have to be pretty, but not too sexy, etc., etc. And that's something that is put on women. It doesn't mean that men also don't have to live, I would say, incompatible expectations also, because they have to be strong, but they have to be soft. They have to be protective, but not violent, etc., etc. But that's something that feminism is talking about, and that I think right now, even though it's starting, men still have difficulties to talk about. We know that it's difficult to be a woman. We talk about it all the time. Men, they cannot really express also how hard it is to be everything at the same time. So, and again, yes, fictions are perfect worlds, and our world is not perfect. So that's also why we escape into fiction, and maybe we can learn from fiction to understand, to be a little bit more understanding towards each other, or tolerant. I don't know. This is really up to anyone looking at those fictions. But yes, if you expect to live in a romantic comedy or a Korean novellas, you will be disappointed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello again. I wanted to ask you, what made you start asking yourself this question, to start this analysis about love in fiction? Because you mentioned that you essentially started a career that wasn't there. So was there a reason that you started asking yourself this? Did something happen in particular in your personal life?
Did I fall in love? Yes, but a long time ago. But the first focus of my research was war. Because what I'm interested in is the other. Things that I don't understand, and as a woman, war and the soldier is something that I will never be. So I was interested in that, in the way it represented war, it represented heroism, violence, things that I don't understand. So that's how I started, and also I started working on US TV series, because I'm French. And after maybe 10 years, I dared to look at French TV series, so to come closer. And now it's been 20 years that I'm working on wars, and I'm a little tired of wars, especially when they become so real in the real world. And so I started to get interested into love, and I started to watch Korean novellas, and I was like, this is so different. I don't understand why they act the way they do. And so I started to research and to talk to other people, researchers, etc., etc. And it really opened my eyes, and again my understanding of the world and of other people live and experience that I had in Asia, especially crossing a street in Asia. It's not the same at all as in the rest of the world. And this started to make sense and to connect, and also there's a lot of food in K-dramas, and I like food, and I like the way they take food seriously, and that's something maybe as a French person that I understand very well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
En español. Así como hay una diferencia en el amor heterosexual hollywoodense con los K-dramas, ¿cuál sería la diferencia en el amor homosexual hollywoodense con el coreano?
The answer is no. That's what's really striking and debatable, is that both in Western rom-coms or in BL drama, the structure is the same. The roles will be the same, and it's give this idea that love is love, whoever the person is. And when you talk with real queer people, they will react in a mixed way because they feel that those type of representation makes them follow the heterosexual norm. And that's true with rom-coms. For example, there's this movie on Netflix called Happiest Season with Kristen Stewart, who's a gay actress. But this follow the classic Christmas tropes. This is a very classic Christmas story that doesn't show a lesbian love as something specific or as something that can be lived, experienced differently from marriage, kids, pleasing your parents, etc., etc. So yes, this in mainstream culture, queer characters, LGBT characters entered by playing the mainstream games, and where queerness enters the mainstream culture, it's in other genres, but it's not really mainstream because again, that's what queer people say. Some queer people, they're not always the same or think the same, but they felt something that they're more accepted, but they're more accepted because they play the game, because they get married and have kids. In America, that's how they were accepted, by playing the games of family. And if you want to play with different rules, then you will stay outside of mainstream culture or outside of the general society. So, yeah.
Gracias.
Thanks, Marjolaine, for your interesting presentation. I'm gonna take you to politics, to industry,
sure.
To audiences.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we know, and it's very set, the idea that Korean dramas are very successful here in Latin American markets and probably European markets as well. We cannot say the same about Bollywood, which has been some time out there, right? We are starting to see some success regarding Turkish telenovelas, which have been quite successful in Chile, at least so far as I know. But Korean dramas is way more successful, right? They are doing something right. They're ticking the boxes, right, in some way. We have been talking about adaptation to some extent, but Bollywood is just for laughter, right? Like we consider it laughable that people relate to each other in relation to love by dancing, or in our public display of dancing. That seems to be confusing for us, but that would be the content part of the analysis that we could do. But maybe there are huge or more important business explanations behind this, and it would be interesting for everybody here, I guess, that we explore this other dark side of it in a way. That's the invitation. Thanks.
You're welcome. So let's talk about racism. First of all, Turkey is actually the second country that exports the most TV series in the world after the United States, but before Korea. And they export mostly in the global south. So things that are not on the radar of Netflix. And it's also the same for Bollywood, extremely successful in South Pacific Asia, Africa. And in Europe, this is a growing niche also. There's my students in France, they learn to dance Bollywood, etc., etc. This is also something that is developing. But I think there is this thing about race. There's this thing about Western norms of what is pretty, who is pretty. And Korea also, they sell skincare that makes your skin more pale. And they can be recognized as pretty, whereas Bollywood actresses, the one that crossed the frontier between the south and the north, are the one that look the most like Europeans. Yes, the fairest. And so again, this is ingrained colonialism, colorism that is still in our perception of what is acceptable, how we can identify to different people. So yes, I think that's where it was easier for Korean to cross this line than for Bollywood. Or also there's Nigeria is also producing a lot of TV series and films, very successful, not in the north. So Netflix is changing a lot of things, and I think also why Turkey is so successful is, again, when you look at Turkish actors, all white, very white looking, very Western looking. So, yes. But this is the cosmetic industry. This is who can become a model and who cannot, etc., etc. And we can talk, of course, about bodies. They're all extremely thin. So that again gives a very small idea of what humanity is. You're right.
Bueno. De esta manera, entonces, estamos cerrando nuestra actividad. Queremos agradecer a Marjolaine por haber estado, por haber compartido con nosotros este interesante intercambio. Además, festejo mucho la participación de quienes se han animado, digamos, a conversar con la profesora, digamos. Así que le damos la más cordial bienvenida a nuestro primer año, a quienes, sobre todo porque hay estudiantes de primer año. Festejamos entonces este nuevo año y les damos a todos las gracias por haber participado de esta instancia.